Just a few short years ago, Harry and Meghan were living a fairy tale which few could ever dream of. Royalty, money, tiaras, and the love of the world were all at their feet. But slowly, cracks began to form, and the fairy tale romance seemed to become a horror story. But through all of the volatility, Harry and Meghan always had each other and opportunities. That was until now. Those multi-million-dollar opportunities that allowed the Sussexes to flee the stronghold of the royal family are drying up quicker than expected, leading Sky News All-Stars Peter Credlin, Peter Stefanovic and Esther Krakue to ask, is this the end of the Sussexes? Meghan Markle and Prince Harry once had the Midas Touch. Everything they touched turned to gold, and brands were scrambling to have a piece of them. But the gloss started to wear off, and following a string of scandals and lies, the reputation of the couple took a beating in the eyes of the public, and brands didn't want a bar of it, explains royal commentator Kinsey Schofield.
I think that a lot of people and celebrities and companies are distancing themselves from the Sussexes because they do seem to be a flop. They do seem to bring drama wherever they go and overpromise and underdeliver. So you're seeing celebrities and companies like Dior quickly trying to distance themselves, saying, no, there's no way we're signing Meghan Markle. That's not happening. And then representatives for people coming out quietly saying, no, she actually was not having dinner or lunch at the sushi restaurant with our client. So I think that they're pretty much considered toxic here in the States at this point in time.
Even up-and-coming fashion designers desperate to enter Hollywood don't want to work with Meghan Markle.
She's even having a hard time in the world of fashion. She's been described as a fashion icon by a number of people, but apparently not everyone's keen to work with her.
That's right. We were just talking about, a lot of people in New York and LA distancing themselves. I wish I would have mentioned that Taylor Swift refused to do her podcast. Meghan wrote her a handwritten note and asked her, and Taylor rejected her through her representatives. But, Dior has said, no, we're not working with Meghan. And then we had a stylist in LA say, over my dead body would I connect Meghan Markle to any of my high-profile couture clients. And again, I think that this is that toxicity that's associated with their brand. They can't keep secrets. They go on Netflix and announce a text message from Beyonce. If they don't like what you do, they're going to run you over so publicly. They'll sit down with Oprah and tear into you. I think brands really want to distance themselves. They're concerned about the damage that it's guilt by association, and Harry and Meghan are very damaging right now.
Meghan and Harry's currency is their stories, which made a career in media a no-brainer once they left the royal family. But once their stories dried up or were exposed as lies, they struggled to make content to fulfill their multi-million-dollar contracts with streaming giants Spotify and Netflix.
Calvin, the deal between the Sussexes and Hollywood and Spotify, they were announced with a lot of fanfare. Now they're being described as flops. What went wrong?
Oh, it's a shame, isn't it? But Spotify got scammed. That's what went wrong. And I'm not saying that they are work-shy grifters, Harry and Meghan, but that's what Spotify said themselves, isn't it? This $25 million deal, and they ended up getting, 12 episodes out of them in the entire time. They say it was a mutual agreement to part ways, but I'm not entirely convinced what mutual means in this setting. I don't think it's actually just Spotify that got scammed either. We as an audience got scammed. Meghan didn't do half of the interviews herself. We hear that she had other people doing the interviews for her. So how is it an interview with Meghan Markle if someone else is doing the job? And to have only 12 episodes to listen to in all of these months is ridiculous. And then, of course, we hear that Prince Harry wanted to interview Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump about their childhood trauma. It shows a clear lack of direction. It's quite insane, to be honest with you.
Sky News host Peter Credlin, together with contributor Dan Wooten, go further, calling the ditch deal cataclysmic.
This is cataclysmic. This is a disaster. Who do they blame for this? When they fell out with the royal family, they were able to say it were the horrible men in grey suits who were trying to hold us back, who were trying to stop us doing what we wanted to do. In fact, many of those men in grey suits said the same thing about Harry and Meghan. They were lazy, they were entitled, they only cared about themselves. Now they've had that same damning verdict from the woke companies who are meant to be their friends. So where this couple goes next is a major question.
And Spotify executive and podcaster Bill Simmons had more to say, slamming the couple in an off-the-cuff tirade.
It's Prince Harry.
Oh, yeah.
Shoot this guy to the sun. I'm so tired of this guy. What does he bring to the table? He just whines about why he keeps giving interviews. Who gives a Who cares about your life? You weren't even like the favorite son. The other guy was the king. You're like Fredo.
Our wives care. Our wives care about him.
They
That's
don't
who
even
cares.
care. Does your wife care about Prince Harry? Nobody cares about this. 8-episode Netflix show. What did we find out? I'm so embarrassed that I have to share Spotify with him. The guy sucks. It'll be the first productive thing he did. What's your talent? Why are we listening to you? So you were born in a royal family and then you left. What are you good at?
Yeah, he didn't do anything there, and now he's going to come here and do nothing.
You live in Montecito, and you just you sell documentaries and podcasts, and nobody cares what you have to say about anything unless you talk about the royal family. You just complain about him. He's got a book. What do you write a book about?
Love this.
Honestly, he's the worst.
In another embarrassing blow, it came out this week that Meghan Markle asked Taylor Swift to be a guest on her now defunct podcast, but was rejected by the pop princess.
There's been plenty of discussion this week about the Sussexes Archetypes podcast, and despite there only being a few episodes, the podcast did attract some big names, but not everyone took up the invitation, did they?
Yes, so apparently the Duchess of Sussex wrote a personal letter to Taylor Swift asking her, inviting her to come onto her podcast, and Taylor responded through a representative of hers and declined the offer. Now, we don't actually know why. Taylor Swift's team hasn't actually said the reason why she declined the offer. It could have been a scheduling issue. We know from recent reports that Meghan wasn't always actually in the room with her guests for the podcast episodes that she aired. A lot of them were, or a few of them, from what we heard, were actually interviewed by her producers, and then she would go into another room at a different or more convenient time and then record her part of the podcast. So it could have been a scheduling issue. It could have just been, it's not something that's really relevant to Taylor Swift. Maybe she didn't want to be dragged into the whole Sussexes royal family drama. We don't actually know why. But it's very clear that Meghan tried to draw as much big-name female talent as she possibly could. And it looks like that was her vision for the podcast. Obviously, the main issue here is the fact that she didn't hit the productivity targets that Spotify wanted, and it may not have gained enough traction. And for that reason, it's been cancelled, and they've mutually agreed to part ways, as according to the statement they both released.
With their Spotify deal dead in the water, Meghan and Harry still have their $100 million Netflix deal to fall back on. Or maybe not. Many are now speculating that their Netflix deal will also be scrapped due to a lack of content after their 6-part series, Harry and Meghan.
Netflix has given the Sussexes an ultimatum: make more content or don't get paid. The streaming service has told the couple, reportedly, they have to come up with another show if they want to receive $60 million in outstanding fees. This report is courtesy of The Sun today. The pair have only been paid half their contract, worth $121 million as a total. It follows reports Spotify parted ways with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex over a lack of content. This was confirmed probably about 10 days ago now.
Again, this Netflix deal, $81 million contract. This is no small pennies. They've been paid half of that so far, and if they want to get the other half, they've got to put the work in. And I think they're resting on their laurels. The Tell-All series they came across as entitled and whinging. It was embarrassing, but it did get views. But how many times can they do that? How many times can they exploit their connections to the royal family, particularly since they've been disconnected for so long now? And that's what it is. It's exploitation, it's unoriginal, and it's been detrimental to their family relationships, but also to the country and our international relationships. So I'm hoping they can come up with something better. Maybe some fiction would be nice for a change. Not that the stuff they've been doing so far isn't fiction.
With a ditched Spotify deal, a Netflix deal hanging in the balance, and brands wanting nothing to do with them, it begs the question, what does the future hold for Harry and Meghan? Sky News commentator Esther Krakue comments.
Well, this is the main issue. This is what everyone is kind of anticipating from the Sussexes. What are they going to do next? I think we have to understand the variety of factors that are at play with what's looking like the decline of the Sussex brand, if it ever was, succeeded in the first place. When they did leave the royal family in 2020 and, basically the whole world was locked down, a lot of these streaming services saw a boom in subscriptions because people were basically stuck at home. And so the likes of Netflix and Sussexes tried to, and Spotify, they tried to draw big names like the Obamas and, various celebrities to produce content for them because they had the cash, they had the spare cash, and they had people at home. Now, what happened at that time as well, when the Sussexes left the royal family, they were offered all of these deals to produce content in the hope that they would be able to, keep these companies buoyant with an explosion of content that will keep people watching. But the reality is, now that a lot of the streaming services have seen their subscriptions drop because the world has now opened up again, and the Sussexes not really having produced a lot of content, and they seeming to not have a very specific focus on actually the kind of content that they want to produce, we now see a combination of very little content, a lot of lack of direction from the Sussexes, not great production value, and the streaming giants dedicating all this money to the couple and not really seeing a return on investment. So that really is kind of the perfect storm for them, because they don't have a reputation in the industry now for producing good quality content. The idea that they're going to keep drawing eyes to them and attention is again waning, and their reputation is also falling by the day. So even if they do produce content, if people think that they're just a sanctimonious pair of whingers trying to make money and have no expertise in anything, even if they do produce content, will people watch it? So they're not in a very favorable position right now, and I'm sure they know it because they've hired, a new PR team, and it looks like they're focusing on a bit of rebranding there. But that is the issue that they're facing now.